I call to order the City of Bloomington Board of Zoning Appeals for May the 23rd, 2024. Can we please have the roll call?
Fowler.
Here.
Burrell.
Here.
Clapper.
Here.
Farrell.
Here.
Throckmorton.
Present.
Okay, we have approval of minutes from the April 18th, 2024 meeting. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the minutes from the April 2024 meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion or corrections? Okay, can we have a vote, please?
Burrell.
Yes.
Clapper.
Yes.
Farrell.
Yes.
Throckmorton.
Yes.
Ballard.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any reports, resolutions, and communications this evening?
Development Services Manager Jackie Scanlon. The only thing I was going to report is that the 2024 annual UDO updates did go back to Plan Commission this month, and so those will be updated shortly, probably next week, signed by the mayor, and then we will update our PDF version online, and then it will be updated in MuniCode shortly thereafter. So yeah, we'll just make sure you have the updated link, but just wanted to let you know we didn't have any big policy changes this year, a lot of corrections and cleanups, but just to let you know that process is done. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this evening, well, petitions that are continued to the June 20th, 2024 meeting are AA-17-22, Joe Kemp Construction LLC and Blackwell Construction, Inc., V-27-22, Cutters Kirkwood 123 LLC, V-05-24, Candy Sipes. Whoops, hang on. Here we go. V-08-24, Andrew Huck. The petitions that are to be heard this evening are as follows. V-10-24, Ruby Creek Homes. V-13-24, Ruby Creek Homes. And V-14-24, Ruby Creek Homes. Then we have V-15-24, Sarah Nelson. V-16-24, BPO Elks, number 446. And then finally, CU-17-24, Bloomington Builders LLC and Latitude 39 North Properties LLC. And we are ready to hear our first petition, which is V-10-24, Ruby Creek Homes. Could we please have the staff report?
I'm sorry, I accidentally turned off all the TVs. I'm trying to fix that just a sec. Sorry, we're having trouble with the little ones today, so you might have to crane to watch the big ones. Oh, there you go. Thank you.
All three of the Ruby Creek homes together because they have the same result and the same analysis. So I will be presenting right now for V-10-24, V-13-24, and V-14-24. These case numbers are for 914, 918, and 922 North Ulitic Drive, which is located in the northwest part of town. Current zoning for these lots is residential medium lot R2. All surrounding zoning is also R2. And future land use zoning for, future land use in the comprehensive plan is neighborhood residential. All three of these sites are around 0.2 acres. The existing land use is currently vacant. Previously, it contained lawful non-conforming mobile homes. All surrounding land uses are single-family dwelling detached. These are the case numbers in relation to the lots on a contours map. Here are some photos of the site previous to demolition. For many years existed at least 2 mobile homes on all 3 sites together. Here's a view from the east alley, looking north. This is a view from Ulitic Drive, looking towards the east. The petitioner is wishing to develop 3 single-family homes on each of these lots. This is an example of a site plan for one of the lots that he submitted. The other 2 site plans for the lots are shown here. And this is a rendering of a general house that the developer has plans to put on these lots, as well as an example of a floor plan for these one-floor single-family homes. Obviously, these exact plans are what was initially submitted. They may be altered in the future depending on the results of this variance. So all 3 of these lots are located in a karst feature. The sinkhole marking is shown by the light blue dot on the map, but you can see by the contours how far the karst feature extends. You can see where the last closed contour of the sinkhole karst feature is, and you can see approximately that where 25 feet from the last contour falls in relation to the northernmost property. So in Title 20, karst geology standards state that no land disturbing activity, mowing, or temporary or permanent structure shall be allowed within the sinkhole, nor within 25 feet of the last closed contour of the sinkhole. So because all 3 of these properties fall completely within the last closed contour of the karst feature and within 25 feet of the last closed contour, the petitioner is requesting a variance from karst preservation standards, that should probably say karst geology standards, to allow disturbance within 25 feet of the last closed contour. So criteria and findings. We found that a number of structures have existed in and around this karst feature for many years. I guess I forgot to mention that the petitioner had a geotechnical report completed by the company called Pioneer. That is included in the packet. So a number of structures have existed in and around this karst feature for many years with no collapse. Proper testing and restoration of the site will be required before building construction is allowed, per the recommendations in the geotechnical report that was submitted. With the remediation of the sinkhole, drainage analysis, and the installation of drainage solutions, impact to surrounding properties should be mitigated. And in response to the 3rd finding, the application of the UDO does result in practical difficulties peculiar to this property because it is uncommon for an entire property to be located within a UDO-defined sinkhole. But because the properties in this area are smaller and closer together, the extent of the last closed contour renders the entire sites unbuildable. The department recommends that the BZA adopt the proposed findings and approve V1024, V1324, and V1424 with the following conditions: that implementation of sinkhole remediation as outlined in the attached geotechnical report is required for all properties before any building approvals are issued. that submission of drainage and water flow analysis post-sinkhole remediation is required before any building approvals are issued, and that the Planning and Transportation and Utility Departments must approve that report. That with the condition that the implementation of design and construction recommendations provided in the attached geotechnical report is required before approval of building, and that soil and water contamination testing and provision of any necessary remediation identified related to those tests is required before building approvals are issued. Also, a zoning commitment shall be recorded indicating the presence of a karst feature and describing the karst conservancy easement before building approvals are issued. And for each individual site, for V1024, 914 Ulitic, development of the lot is limited to the east half of the lot beyond the 876 contour line. For V1324, 918 North Ulitic, development of the lot is limited to the east half of the lot to maximize the area of land present between development and the lowest point in the area. And for V1424, 922 North Ulitic, because the area close to the last closed contour of the sinkhole has created obvious steeper slopes on the site, over time, construction of the home should occur south of the 878 contour line. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there a petitioner present here this evening, or perhaps on Zoom?
They are online.
Okay, they're online. Mr. Graber, are you there?
Either Mr. Graber or Mr. Graber's representative, if you want to unmute your mic. Okay. And then Barry will swear you in.
Who?
His computer. Mr. Graber, can you make sure that your microphone is turned on your device?
Is there someone else representing him as well?
I'm going to send him a chat and see if he's at the computer. Yeah, is there someone else online who's here to speak on behalf of Mr. Graber? If so, you can send a message to the host or raise your virtual hand so that we know who to contact. I sent a message to Mr. Graber, but he did not respond. He might be trying to figure out his microphone because he is unmuting, but we can't hear him. Ms. Lacey, do you have a suggestion on how to move forward with that? Because obviously he needs to be able to communicate. Can anyone hear us? Yeah.
I think what you're going to have to do is hold this petition. You could hold it for the meeting to see if the petitioner is able to access their microphone, or it may need to be continued to a subsequent meeting when the petitioner has the opportunity to present their case.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think the rules indicate that it goes to the end of the agenda, and then in the case where the petitioner isn't here, where, I mean, obviously he's in the Zoom, but we aren't able to communicate with him.
Okay. So we don't have to, there's no action, we just
Ms.
move on
Lacy,
to
I don't
the-
think they have to make a motion, right? I think it just automatically goes to the end of the agenda. But let me look.
Sorry. It automatically goes to the end of the agenda, and then will be continued to the next proceeding.
Okay, I would like to be able to send you could call in, I could send him the call-in information, but he's not responding to messages either, so I don't know if he's having some sort of technical trouble.
Okay,
Okay.
that's a first. So then we'll be moving on to case V-15-24, Sarah Nelson. If we could have the staff report, please.
Katie Gandhi, zoning planner. This petition for a variance is for 803 East Winslow Road in the southern part of Bloomington. 803 East Winslow Road is a residential small lot, R3, surrounded by R3 lots, R3 zoning to the north and west, R2 zoning to the east, R2 zoning to the southeast, and RM zoning to the southwest. The future land use comprehensive plan designation is neighborhood residential. This property is approximately 0.95 acres. Its current land use is single-family dwelling detached. Surrounding land uses include detached single-family residential, detached single-family residential, to the north and east, as a typo, place of worship to the southeast, and Acadia Court Leasing Office and multifamily residential development to the southwest, and detached single-family residential to the west. This is a photo from 2014 of the site along East Winslow Road. This is a view of the site around 2021. This is a view from the property owner's porch, looking towards Winslow to the south. The petitioner is requesting to place a 6-foot tall wooden L-shaped privacy fence at the southwest corner of the property. You can see, I guess you can't see my mouse. Let's see. Now you can. So in the southwest corner of the property, right where my mouse is where they're requesting a 6-foot privacy fence. This privacy fence would be placed 8 feet north of the southwest property line along Winslow. The fence would extend 40 feet east, parallel to the front property line, and it would extend 16 feet to the north along the west property line. The purpose of this requested privacy fence is to block traffic lights and noise from East Winslow Road and South Acadia Court. The property owner is also requesting to place a 5-foot tall woven wire fence along the west property line. The fence would connect to the northernmost portion of the aforementioned 6-foot privacy fence along the west property line and continue north along the property line to the northwest corner of the property. That's indicated by the little X's on the site plan that you can see. The purpose of the 5-foot woven wire fence is to delineate the property line and discourage possible trespass from development of the property to the west. So according to Title 20 fence height standards, fences cannot exceed 4 feet in height forward of the front building wall of the primary structure, which is the space between the front property line and the front building wall. Because the proposed 6-foot wooden privacy fence in the southwest corner and roughly 46 feet of the proposed 5-foot wooden woven wire fence along the western property line would be placed in a location of the property where the UDO maximum fence height standards are 4 feet, the petitioner is requesting a variance from fence height standards. In response to the first variance criteria, the granting of the variance will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals. The 6-foot fence would be set 8 foot north of the multi-use path and sit below the elevation of the multi-use path. It would not interfere with or create a safety hazard for users on the path. In response to the second variance criteria, no adverse impacts to the use and value of surrounding properties are found. The 4-foot fence maximum in the UDO is intended to help promote visibility and allow for positive interface and interactions between private property owners and users of the adjacent public right-of-way. The 6-foot wooden fence would extend the length of only 40 feet along the front property line and be located 8 feet north of the right-of-way line. A limited length of right-of-way visibility would be impacted. The requested 5-foot woven wire fence is transparent and will not block visibility between the front door of this home and the neighbors. In response to the third criteria, strict application of the UDO results in practical difficulties in the use of the property that are unique to the property. The property is across the street from an apartment complex, which generates more traffic than an average residential subdivision. The loss of vegetation in front of the home affected the home's ability to be screened. Approval of this variance would allow the placement of a fence that would help shield a residential dwelling from light pollution. And approval of this variance would allow property owners increased security of their residential property. Approval would also maintain visibility and connectivity to the neighboring properties and the public right-of-way as desired by the UDO. The department recommends that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the proposed findings and approve case V1524 with the following conditions. The petitioner may only install the types of fencing approved in the packet for this variance at only the heights and locations shown, unless approved by default in code. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the petitioner's representative here? If you could step to the podium and state your name, and I will swear you in.
Roger Stewart.
Mr. Stewart, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, you've up to 20 minutes to state your case.
Okay, I don't think I'll need that long. Basically, the staff report that Katie's put together pretty much explains what's being requested. So unless there's any questions, I really don't have anything more to add to that.
Sure, we'll go back to the board for questions then. Anybody have questions of staff or the petitioner?
The stoplight in question is at the corner of, this for staff to tell me, at corner of Highland and Winslow. Is there a new light installed there? I haven't been down there in a while. Is the stoplight located at the corner of Highland and Winslow? Is that a new stoplight there? Because I don't remember one being there before. Is that the stoplight in question?
I did not mention a stoplight.
Just the
I'm sorry,
intersection.
I'm sorry, I thought I heard something about lights.
Light pollution from traffic lights.
Oh, traffic light. That, so when I heard traffic light, that's what I meant. That, sorry. You mean
Oh,
lights from
yes,
cars?
I'm sorry, car headlights, yes.
Thank you, that helps, thanks.
Good clarification. Anything else? Any other questions? Any other questions? I just wanted to, I had a clarification on the site plan that you had submitted. There seemed to show 2 right-of-way lines. Was one a former right-of-way line? And then the one closer to your house is, do you mind putting that back up? Because I wasn't exactly clear. Oops. Oops. There we are.
I just thought I would bring up the actual survey for that
Okay.
question.
Okay.
Is that question for me or for the petitioner?
I guess for the petitioner, because it was on the submitted site plan that the petitioner drew, and I wasn't sure which was, the one to the south was the former right-of-way line. Is that
That's the
correct?
original right-of-way line. And
And
sometime back, the city came in and acquired additional
additional
right-of-way.
property?
And that's
Okay.
what the dash line,
Okay, so the
Yes.
one closer to your house is the new right-of-way line?
that's correct.
Okay, so could we go to the site plan that the petitioner did submit? Because it shows the fence beyond the right-of-way line, if I'm not,
That's a great question. It's like a Tetris piece. That bottom corner is, we did not purchase right-of-way on that bottom corner. So see how the right-of-way line kind of ends, just short of the,
the pathway?
yeah, so like you can see right-of-way is written there on the bottom left, just north of the word pathway, or just above the word pathway. And then the dotted line comes over, and then you can't tell because they wrote that 6-foot privacy fence there, but it goes north and then east again. Or right again. Can
Yeah.
you show them the elevate map? You can see it on the parcels. Yeah, the reverse of, right. Well, maybe.
But there's another
Katie can put up
right-of-way
the
line.
parcel and maybe that'll.
Okay, I just need to understand.
Yeah, if
Right,
you
but
can
that's,
go back
clearly
to
that's
that.
not their property any longer because it's in the road. The path is, they don't, the public pathway is not going through their property any longer. Right, so the right-of-way line is
So like
back.
this is their property line here that we bought back to,
Right.
and then it comes down and goes
Ah.
right behind the path.
Oh, so there's a little,
See, oh, you can't see it on here. I thought you could, I'm sorry.
okay, so it dips down.
But it's
Yep.
actually the reverse now, right? Oh, no. Katie,
Yeah,
is that
if
right?
you can,
Does it go north like that?
And then it
Katie,
goes up and then it goes over.
Right?
Okay, so part of their property does abut the back side of the pathway. That's what I just want to confirm. Because it looks, not knowing that, it looks like the fence is over the property line. So I just want to confirm
You are
that
correct,
it's not.
yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah,
everybody's on the same page.
that, where the line comes up from the road and then goes to the west and then goes north,
And then goes north, okay.
yeah, that was half of a previous parcel that had been split, and half of that was merged with their property and half was merged with the house to the west.
Okay,
And that's why there's that jog.
okay. Okay.
So,
Do-
I'm sorry,
Yeah, no, I just want to make sure that we're clear. It's okay? Yeah? It's a little odd.
It's odd, and it's also odd that it's not in Elevate yet, but it kind of maybe doesn't matter so much for the for the question, because they're not asking to put the fence in a right-of-way that we're unsure about. They're asking to put the fence in that little jutting out portion.
As long as they own it.
Yes.
That's fine.
They own it either way, whether or not the right-of-way was acquired or not.
Okay,
The proposed location of the fence is 8 feet north of where the concrete right-of-way markers along that pathway is.
okay, okay, okay. Thanks. Do you have a question, Jeff?
Yeah, the question I had, this is for the petitioner, so as we're looking at this, so it's in that little L area that we were just talking about, that's where the 6-foot wooden fence is going to go, that you want, correct?
That is correct.
And then as you go north along the western boundary, you wanted to move to a woven 5-foot fence?
That's correct.
So what?
Oh, excuse me, if you would like to say something, you just have to.
Sorry, no,
go to
just,
the
I think he's going to
podium.
answer it. This is a pretty simple
Yeah,
question, so.
the L shape is the proposed 6-foot wooden
Right.
fence, and from their north to their northwest property corner would be the 5-foot woven wire fence.
So what I'm trying to understand is, that's pretty much a see-through fence.
Correct.
So what's the rationale for giving a variance for the 4-foot if it's see-through? Why is the city, what's the rationale that you need it to be 5 feet rather than within code? Is there a
You're talking
particular?
about the
I'm talking about the 5-foot woven.
Oh, the 5-foot woven rather than a 4-foot
Was there a particular
woven.
reason you needed it higher?
Basically, to keep deer and potential trespassing out. We don't know what the development to the west is going to end up being. And when we owned that property before selling it, when my parents owned it, to the west of the house on the next door property, in that wooded area, we found clothing and stuff in there where people have come in for whether they were camping or doing whatever. They've been trespassing on that property before we put the woven wire fence up along the roadway. So this is mainly to make it more difficult for anybody to trespass onto their property.
Okay. And so for the city then, since you are recommending that we accept that portion of the variance, 5 feet instead of 4 feet, what was the rationale for the particular difficulty for that? I mean, a preference is different than a reason for us to provide that variance. I'm just curious as to what the rationale is.
The rationale was more surrounding the intention of a 4-foot fence, which is to maintain visibility, and because woven wire fence won't be blocking visibility between neighbors. That was the rationale for approval.
Okay. The only reason it was something I wanted to ask about is because you're seeing through the fence anyway, so it's complete visibility. And so, and the difference between 1 foot, there needs to be, in my opinion, there has to be a particular difficulty, a peculiar instance for us to, vary that. I mean, I understand the wooden fence portion, but the wire portion, that doesn't make sense that the city would recommend that we provide a variance for that, just because you can see through it.
Well, just in going back to the finding really deals with the wooden portion.
Right, the wooden
Right,
portion, right.
it
So
doesn't-
that's
there's
what
not
was
really a
confusing to me.
finding
That
for
didn't make
the-
sense.
For the,
But I appreciate what the petitioner's saying, which is a preference based on historical, anecdotal evidence of, we're trying to discourage that, but at the same time, providing a variance, we have to have some solid foundation for that.
I will indicate also that you can parse them if you want to do a partial as well.
If we feel that we need to.
Correct, yeah, if you decide to make a different decision about each one.
right.
But right now, I'm just hearing from the city, it didn't seem to be a big deal because you could see through the fence and you were worried about visibility, but that's, I don't know if that falls under our purview to be able to make a decision based on that. Thank you.
Any other questions? No? No? Okay, then we are to the public. Is there anyone here this evening who would like to comment on this petition? This is your opportunity. Is there anybody at home? On Zoom?
If you'd like to speak, you can raise your virtual hand or send a message to the host. I don't see any hands.
Okay.
Thank you.
Then we are back to the petitioner. You have a lot of time remaining. If there are any final comments you would like before we have our final deliberations, this is your opportunity. And I'm happy to swear in someone else if someone else would also like to speak at this time.
I don't think we have anything else to present. I think it's pretty much in the report and what we just discussed.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I have some follow-up questions based on the comment that Joe made. So the petitioner could do a taller fence behind the house, from the front of their house and back. It's really just the section from the front face of the house to meet up with this, this wooden fence, right? And how much, this is it's an L-shaped fence, the taller 6-foot fence that's being proposed, and it extends back how far? I just want to make sure that I understand the configuration.
Yes, I'll share it, but the
Yeah.
proposal is that it would extend 40 feet east, parallel to the front property line, and 16 feet to the north along the western property line.
Okay, okay. And that sets well out in front of their house. It's more than 16 feet. Okay.
Yes.
Just wanted to see what that,
Interesting question. So what would be the distance between where the 6-foot fence would end and the corner of the house? That's what we don't know, right?
yeah. So there would be a section where if we weren't to give them a variance for the wire portion, it could only be 4 feet, and then it could pop
Go
up.
back up.
Yeah.
But they couldn't put a wooden fence, though. You'd have to-
So how specific is the variance in terms of the length? I don't know, are we tied to the exact configuration that's been submitted? Is the language, I'm going to look at your condition of approval. Yeah. There's a lot of pictures. It's okay. Okay, so it is limited to the,
Petitioners may only install the types of fencing approved in the packet for this variance and only at the heights and locations shown.
okay. Okay, so that's what's been submitted, so that's what we're,
Okay.
But of course,
Being
you can
asked.
obviously amend that. however you
that's the
like.
request.
Yes.
Okay. But that can be modified.
It could be.
It can be
I guess-
modified.
I guess
Yes, it can be, yeah.
It can be.
I see where you're going, which is, I mean, if it was wooden fence, and they could go back to 6 foot as it meets the house line, so you're gonna go from a 6 foot to a 4 foot to 6 foot, to me, that's a whole lot easier to justify
Just-
a variance, because
You don't wanna-
it's a very awkward and peculiar thing, because we are granting the variance on the front side due to the elevation and everything else, and then to have the homeowners have that cut that goes down to 4 and then back up to 6. So to me, the wording of a petition like that is a whole lot easier, plus probably is more in line with what it sounds to me that the petitioner is asking for, which is that ability to discourage trespass.
Right.
Does that make sense?
I think
It sounded like
that
where you were
does.
going with it.
But I think we need to add to the proposed finding to stipulate something about the peculiar condition and hardship.
Yeah. But what I don't like is I don't like going from a wood fence to a completely see-through fence that has a variance, because that variance is useless for that. It's see-through.
Right.
You're saying that it's not necessary for a variance is not necessary for the see-through side?
Yeah, I'm saying that because there's no foundation for that. If you have a fence that's completely see-through, it's not effectively doing what the petitioner's saying that they're doing it for, which is for privacy and protection against trespass, et cetera, okay? And I don't think that the city has the ability to recommend approval of a variance for something that there's no peculiar circumstance.
Yeah,
For
the
that.
peculiar circumstances, protection, correct? They don't want people to trespass.
For me, I would
No.
go, so where I'm going with this is, if it was a wood fence all the way back, we're going to grant a 6-foot, if we do, for that front side to mitigate the traffic lights, or some people, car lights, okay, car lights, the pollution, the light. So if we're gonna do that, to me, there's only two choices. One, it has to be a 4-foot wire fence all the way, or they have the ability to build a 6-foot as it corresponds to the house property, the house line offset, right? So for me, it's a peculiar circumstance where you're going to go 6 foot and then down to 4 foot and then back to 6 foot, because that's only being created because of the elevation. So we can justify that based on what we're allowed to do by calling that a peculiar circumstance. Whereas if they're going to go to a clear see-through fence anyway, then what's the point? It's clear and see-through. So I think we can justify one, but we can't the other. That's my point. If people, concur with that. Does that make sense? No.
Well, I guess I would just look at it that, we don't have definitive, I don't think there are plenty of properties in Bloomington that may be subject to people trespassing. So I don't feel like that in and of itself, although it's a good reason to want a taller fence, I don't think that that is unique about this property. What I do think is unique about this property is the grade change and the relationship of the house to the street and how that's changed over time. And because of all the light pollution with traffic, I see and understand the reason for granting a variance for the wood fencing. And I think that because the request is for a specific amount of wood fencing, they're not asking for that wood fencing to extend all the way back to the front of their house. They're also, they're asking for, I would provide a variance, I would say we could provide a variance where we would then allow a taller metal fence back to that portion of the house. I mean, that's really the only part that we're talking about. They have the right to build whatever fence they want to,
Beyond that.
beyond. So because we're granting the variance, which I think is what you were saying, the variance is creating a condition where we're going to get a weird fence line. And so it's unique, it's kind of unique to this property and just the lay of the land there. So
I think generally,
you were saying the same
that
thing?
generally, I think
Okay,
covers it.
okay.
My only question is, are we able to also let them just continue with wood? If not, that's the only other factor, because to me, it's odd to go, because if they can build wood or are willing to build wood, if
Well,
we grant that,
we
then
could ask them if that would
We
be
could.
their I mean, yeah. Although I think that we would want to minimize the amount of opaque fence
okay,
forward of the house, because that's kind of what the,
variances,
Yeah.
I mean, the code is for, right?
yeah. And so I would go with what they've submitted,
Okay,
yeah.
I understand.
Any further? Okay.
I just want to clarify something. Somebody mentioned going from 6-foot fence to 4-foot back to 6-foot. It's just going from 6 foot down to 5 foot.
To 5 foot,
Yeah.
right. So it would be a foot. It wouldn't be a 4.
That's if we grant the variance.
Right.
Yeah.
Right,
Right.
and so it goes back to my point of, if it's a see-through, then we go back to the original argument. If it's a see-through, then I can't see the reason for us approving it. That was kind of where we were going with it, so, but Barry summarized it well. so.
Wait, but, wait, okay, I think I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, all I was saying is that if we're going to grant a variance of a 5-foot see-through fence, I don't see how we're able to do that because to me, it doesn't do anything because you're seeing through it, so there's no privacy, and I don't see how 1 foot is a deterrence, okay? And I don't think that the grade variation is rational enough for that. But what I'm saying is I understand if they're able to build a fence from the house on, then how high can they build it next to the house? 4 feet or 5 feet, according to code?
6 feet or
In line with,
from
Once they get to the front of the house.
back, they can build.
yeah, if that fence is in line with the front of the house and back, then up to 8 feet.
So that was my point, was they could say, okay, we're going to build a 6-foot fence back. And that's where I was going with the argument of, so we grant a variance for the front side, then we have a span, and then they can actually start building again. So my point there was, it turns into a whole thing of why are we going to have that one section as wire see-through when we're going to give them a grant for that, and they can by right build the other fence. So to me, I'm saying because then of the variation, trying to maintain a consistent look, then I think that was the argument I was making.
Right.
All right, but I have no problem if it goes back to build a 5-foot connector, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay?
Which still requires a variance.
Exactly.
Right. Okay, people.
I was looking at it kind of from the homeowner's standpoint of
It's, yeah, so anybody else, everybody clear? Yes. Okay, so can we add some language to the, well, first of all, I think we need to have a motion. Is anybody ready to make a motion?
Well, I mean, we can make a motion and then attack the language, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll go ahead then and move for the approval of the variance B-15-24, and this is also a part of it, right? / variance -224040032, correct? With the following conditions, the petitioners may only install the types of fencing approved in the packet for this variance and only at the heights and locations shown. Did I miss something?
Second.
Okay, great. Any further, anybody want to add anything to the proposed finding number 3? It's been in place for 10 years. Placement. Just a sentence about the transparent fence portion, because that's not addressed in the finding.
Exactly.
Right.
You know,
So, peculiar to the convention in question.
I think there's perhaps 2 ways to go. I'm not advocating either one at this moment, but one would be to add language that says that the transparent fence between the wooden fence that's provided in the variance and any fence that begins at the property, at the line with the house, is restricted to 4 feet if it's wire.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. And then the other language would be that we would actually grant a variance that if they continued wood, we would go wood all the way across that property at 6 feet. So those are 2 possible amendments. I'm not making those amendments. I'm putting those forward as, that's kind of what, and the only other one would be continue it wood, but drop it down to 4 and then back up to 6. So, I mean, they've got choices, right? The question is, what do we think that we're allowed to do here?
Right. Well, I was inclined to let them just have the 5-foot wire fence
There?
from the wood to the front of the house, so that, because that's the fence type that they would like to continue
Sure,
with.
okay.
So,
So do we would need to add that then to the language?
I think we
Because
would need to, because we'd be granting a variance for that, right?
that is a variance, but I thought that was part of the actual proposal.
It is, but the proposed finding didn't really deal, it provided a finding just for the wooden portion. So it addresses the condition of the headlights in the intersection.
Yeah, so we could add the language just to make it clear.
Right, right. So so how do people feel about that? What do you?
On item number 2, it does address, it says the requested 5-foot woven wire fence is transparent and thus will not block the visibility between front door of this house and the neighbor to the west.
Right, but it's not related to the peculiar condition.
Okay.
Yeah, so we just have to,
Yeah, trying to attach it to the peculiar condition of the grade,
right,
Yeah.
right,
which was not done in the
Right.
proposed findings.
right. So the new wooden fence, the location of the new wooden fence will create a gap between the taller fence from the house back and this unusual condition, and so the variance will allow continuation of that fence to the wooden fence. Because we're sort of creating part of the condition with the variance.
And what that would mean, then, if I understand, is then the property owner can make the decision once it reaches the
They can do
front of the
whatever they
house to
want.
do whatever they want for the back. So they don't even need a variance for 5-foot see-through fence from the house line back.
No.
They could also go to wood, stone, anything they wanted, up to 8 feet, correct? So, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's that gap.
It's the gap. It's the gap.
I do want to notate that it looks like this exact same configuration was there prior to the path and the trees being taken down. So there is kind of a picture, I think, of what they're envisioning with the gap on page 189.
What page?
189.
189?
And I think that's the gap. I think I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that what they're wanting is basically to just put that back in like it was before.
Was 189, is that from the actual property, or was just a sample that was shot anywhere? To the petitioner, was that from the petitioner or from the city? that
It was,
did
I
this
think it was
photo?
from the petitioner.
So on that photo of the fence that went between the wire to the wood, that was, and it says, an example demonstrating of how the wooden privacy fence will connect to the wooden, was that an existing fence that was there before? Or was this just a picture from somewhere?
This is, that picture is down at our parents' house, and it is the proposed connection between the wooden privacy fence and the 5-foot woven wire fence.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So we're clear. So granting the petition, this variance creates a gap.
So you're adding to finding 3, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I wrote, the location of the newly approved wooden privacy fence will create a height gap between the taller fence allowance, area from the house back and from the house back, I'm sorry, I tried to write while you were talking, and the new location. And the variance will allow continuation of the fence behind the house that can be taller. I'm so sorry.
That's
I'm
okay.
going to put it on the screen.
Okay.
Okay. Because I think it's just the same idea twice.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that it's clear
Right.
that it is the see-through fence.
Yeah.
That it is the see-through fence.
Okay. The location of the newly approved wooden privacy fence. Create a, I'm trying to.
Unique height gap between the taller fence, answer from the height back.
And Barry doesn't need to say caused by the,
Pardon me?
does it anywhere in there need to say caused by the elevation change?
Okay.
Or is that?
No, because it's more linked to the
Front part?
front
Okay.
part.
Got it, okay.
Okay. What did you say? So, granting of the variance for the, let's call it the woven wire fence. Yes, that's, the location of the newly approved wooden wire fence will create a unique handicap issue between the taller fence allowance area at the front building of the house and the newly approved fence. Thank you.
Do we want to add 6 foot and 4 foot, or 5 foot in front of those? Do you want to say 6 foot, approved 6 foot wooden fence, and then the 5 foot woven wire fence, just to be really clear?
I think it's fine
fine?
because
Okay.
it's the
Yeah, 'cause it's two
condition.
different
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just to clarify, we'll add into the existing finding of fact for number 3, the following sentence. The location of the newly approved wooden privacy fence will create a unique height gap issue between the taller fence allowance area at the front building wall of the house and the newly approved wooden fence. Granting of the variance for the woven wire fence will allow consistency in the height of the fence from the front building wall of the house to the new privacy fence at the right-of-way.
Great. Okay? Everybody good with that?
So that would then be entered as an amendment to the motion that's on the floor, right? So do you want me to just do that? So move that that is included as part of the
Yes.
motion.
Yes.
Can I ask just clarification?
Yes, you're more than welcome to. Yes.
Yeah, just that gap that you're discussing between the wooden fence and the front line of the house,
Yes.
this is saying that it can be the 5-foot woven wire fence up to the height of the 6-foot wooden fence?
No, it's saying that it can be the 5-foot woven
5-foot
wire
woven
fence.
wire fence from
Yes,
there,
yes. This
the
language.
portion in front of the front wall of the house.
Yes. The language that we just added doesn't specifically list the heights. It's what you submitted. There's another condition of approval that ties the variance to the plans that you submitted. So
Okay.
the types of fence and the heights and the locations.
All
So,
right.
Yes, so, yeah, we haven't really changed what will be allowed. It is what you have submitted.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Sure. We just needed to justify it in our findings. Okay. So we're back, we
So the
have,
motion is on. We can call a question if you want. and we'll
yes.
see.
Call a question? Anybody? Yeah? Okay, we're ready for a vote.
Clapper,
Yes.
Farrell,
Yes.
Throckmorton,
Yes.
Ballard,
Yes.
Burrell.
Yes.
Okay, the variance is approved. Thank you very much, and good luck to you. Okay. Get back. Okay. We are now on to V-16-24 BPO Elks, number 446. Staff report, please.
Thank you. So this is Eric Grulich, Senior Zoning Planner with the City of Bloomington Planning and Transportation Department, here to present this petition for Bloomington Lodge 446, Benevolent Protective Order of the Elks. This is for a property on North Walnut Street. The petitioners are here tonight to request a variance from front yard building setback requirements in order to allow for existing flagpoles to be legitimized for a property in the mixed-use downtown within the downtown core overlay district. So as I mentioned, this property is located at 400 North Walnut Street at the northeast corner of Walnut and 9th Street, and has been developed with the social service oriented use, the Benevolent Order of the Elks, where they hold various meetings and gatherings. And so the petitioner would like or did construct several flag poles at the southwest corner of the property that you can see here in this exhibit with a concrete pad. There was a previous flag in this area that had been there for a long time and was very dilapidated. So the petitioners came forward to redevelop that with some new flag poles. And unfortunately, some of the flags that were installed do not meet the 12-foot setback requirement that is in the UDO for flagpoles. Specifically, the 2 flags that are on the east side of the site adjacent to Walnut Street, and 2 of the flags on the north side of the site adjacent to 7th Street. They are located approximately 7 feet and 11 feet from the adjacent property lines. And as I mentioned, there is a 12-foot setback requirement in the UDO for flagpoles. So the petitioners are here to request a variance in order to allow for 4 out of the 9 flagpoles to be legitimized. As there are the 3 criteria that are required to be evaluated for variance criterias, we did not find any injuries to the public health, safety, morals, or general welfare as a result of the location of the flagpoles. These are open structures. This is not a building or anything, so there's no impacts to the vision clearance triangle. This certainly does not create any safety issues. And the 3rd criteria here, that there is the strict application of the terms of the UDO will result in practical difficulties that are peculiar to the property. This particular use does have the customary display of flagpoles associated with that. And this property is unique because this particular portion of the property is the only area that there is green space where flagpoles can be displayed and be visible. And in addition to that, within the downtown, and especially at this location, buildings are allowed to be constructed right at a property line. In fact, the petitioners could construct a building at this property line that would be much taller and more impactful in terms of massing than the flagpoles. The flagpole setback requirement really is more appropriate in residential areas or other districts where there is a greater setback from the street for buildings. And really is not in keeping with the design of the downtown, where buildings are allowed to be adjacent to a street. And so the building itself on this property is taller than the flagpoles and is more impactful in terms of mass and scale than the 4 poles that are being requested to be varied with this petition. So with that, we are recommending that the board adopt the proposed findings and approve this variance request with the 1 condition that is listed in staff's report. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Eric. Okay, is the petitioner's representative here?
Yes. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the.
Could you please state your name?
Yes, my name is Stuart Baggerly. I am one of the members of the Elks Lodge, and technically at the lodge, I am the presiding justice for whatever that gets you.
Okay. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Absolutely, yes, I do.
You have up to 20 minutes. Thank you.
Well, seeing as how you're voting, or the determination to approve it, we appreciate it. This was all put together just out of the patriotism of the Elks. I'm not going to make a pitch. I don't think any more of a pitch than I need to. I don't think anybody has a problem with the message that we're sending with the flags. It's the modality. It turns out two of them are just too close, and that's basically something that our contractors checked, and it was indicated that it didn't appear that we would need a site map, but it turns out, I can see what you're saying in that if we had built something there where it was going to cut off sight lines and things, I could see where that would have been something we probably would have done a lot more research on, and we probably would have no interest in doing that. As it is, we put in this installation. We think it's a compliment to the downtown, and it's a nice landmark. And I'm like Mr. Stewart here, I don't think I'm going to need anything near 20 minutes to just thank you for your consideration. And we do appreciate the fella, Eric Grolich, I'm probably saying his last name wrong, but he was good enough. I do I've been over at the Public Defenders across the street here for 25 years. If this was a murder case, I'd know exactly how to do it. But zoning variance is not what I do. But anyway, it doesn't sound like we're going to get a lot of people that don't like it. Who knows? But we appreciate your time, and we appreciate the work that you all put into looking at this and making a decision that looks like it's probably going to be kind of what we were looking for anyway. Fortunately, I'm not getting paid because I really didn't have to do a whole lot today. Well, no, I don't know. It's unfortunate I'm not getting paid. I'm sure I'll get a beverage out of this, but I think with that, I can gas on forever, but there's no jury here, and I think I will sit down and open the floor to anybody else that would like to comment. This was all done, like I said, there was all funds raised privately by individual members, and one or two members in particular really wanted to put this up since we're really big about welcoming home veterans and this kind of stuff. So anyway, thank you all for your time, and I will grant you the gift of me sitting down and shutting up.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, we are to the board for any questions of staff or petitioner. Anybody? No? Okay, then we are to the public. Is there anybody here who would like to speak to this petition? This is your opportunity to do so. Is there anybody online? No one's online. Okay, then we are back to the petitioner. If you have any final comments, this is your time.
I will spare you.
Okay, thank you, thank you. So then we are back to the board for action.
I'll go ahead and motion approval of B-16-24 with the following condition, that this approval is for the number and locations of flagpoles as submitted. Any future development or placement of additional flagpoles must meet all development standards.
Second.
Okay, great. Can we have a vote, please?
Farrell,
Yes.
Ballard,
Yes.
Burrell,
Yes.
Clapper,
Yes.
Throckmorton.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. The variance is approved. Good luck, thank you.
Thank you all so very much for your time.
Sure. Thank you. Good night. And let the minutes reflect that Barry Clapper is now leaving the meeting and turning it over to Joe Throckmorton for the balance.
And show that the president won't be rejoining us at the conclusion. Thank you. All right, thanks, Barry. Are you going to sign your stuff before you leave? Okay. So Barry's going to come over and sign the petitions, so we can get that before she leaves. Can we have those ready, please? So does she need to be in here for this next part? Okay, so we can continue then? Okay. All right. So we're now at conditional use, case CU-17-24, Bloomington Builders LLC and Latitude 39 North Properties LLC. And if we could hear the presentation from staff.
Yes, this is Eric Grulich again. And so this is a request from Bloomington Builders LLC and Latitude 39 North Properties for a property at 916 East Wiley, or 906 East Wiley Street. The petitioners are here tonight to request conditional use approval to allow for a duplex in the residential core zoning district. So this property is on the south side of Wiley Street, is zoned R3, and the property is currently vacant. And the petitioners are proposing to develop the site with a new duplex that would be located in the kind of the center of the site. And they have submitted a site plan to go along with this. There would be one driveway along Wiley Street with a duplex constructed on the west side of it. There would be a driveway suitable for 4 cars on the east side of the site. There are several trees on the property that the petitioner has tried to work to preserve. Unfortunately, there is a large sycamore tree that is in the center of the site that due to its location was not able to be saved. But several of the adjacent trees, the petitioner has worked to save with the site plan. So the duplex would have a sidewalk connection directly from the north unit and the eastern unit on the building that would connect to the street and the driveway. And so hopefully the board was able to look at the elevations and plans that were available. I think that there was an error previously with the original packet and those weren't included. So hopefully the board was able to look at those. So each duplex would have 3 bedrooms in each. So this goes along with the use-specific standards for a duplex. This would be a 2-story building, as I mentioned, with 3 bedrooms in each side. So one of the use-specific standards for duplexes is that the building in general will be compatible with adjacent structures in regards to roof pitch, patio design, front setback, and so the petitioners have incorporated.
Eric, could you pause for a second?
Yes.
I'm going to have to ask for quiet. I'm sorry, but we hear everything that comes this way, and this, I can't have this. I need to be able to concentrate. Sorry. Thank you. Go ahead, Eric.
Okay. And so as I mentioned, the petitioners have tried to incorporate many of these design elements with some of the dormer windows that are shown, the roof pitch. They have included front porches along both of the units on the north side of the building. And so they have also included 2 different types of finishing material, both a horizontal lap siding and a vertical lap siding, and will also have different colors to provide breakup of materials and patterns and design along the building. And so they have worked to try to incorporate some of the or the standards that are in the use-specific standards in regards to compatibility with adjacent buildings. Certainly it should be noted that most of the buildings along Wiley Street are single-story. There are 2-story buildings along Henderson Street, and there is not a consistent design within the neighborhood. There's certainly a wide variety of different housing types, roof pitches, 1-story and 2-story. So the petitioner has tried to incorporate elements of all the different surrounding buildings with the proposal. As the board is probably aware, duplexes are conditional use and are required to attend neighborhood meetings. This is within 500 feet of the Bryan Park and the Elm Heights neighborhood associations. And so this went to both of those neighborhood associations to present this petition and then hear comments. At those meetings, there were a lot of comments expressed regarding on-street parking along Wiley Street, preservation of existing trees on the property, location of the driveway, and then just general comments regarding rental units and a number of bedrooms and parking spaces. So in regard to some of those, the petitioner did modify the location of the driveway to change that to satisfy a concern of adjacent neighbor. As I mentioned, the location of the sycamore tree in the center of the site was not able to be saved. But the petitioner has been able to save some of the existing vegetation and trees on the property with the design of the driveway and location of the house. The location of the house, with this being the R3 district, there is a front build-to line that the house is required to be built to. So that has been shown on the site plan at the 15-foot build-to line. And then they also would be required to install street trees along the frontage, and those have been shown as well. So there are several compliance criteria that are required to be evaluated for conditional uses. I've stepped through some of the standards for the use-specific standards that pertain to architecture. Each unit is required to have their own separate utility connections, which have been shown, as well as their own exterior entrances, which have been shown. So I touched on, the incorporation of the pitched roof and covered porches and setbacks. And so the petitioner has satisfied the general requirements of the UDO in an attempt to meet those standards. There's water and sewer connections available along Wiley Street. So there have not been any issues related to connecting to those utilities that have been raised from the utilities department. So the comprehensive plan designates this as mixed urban residential, and the incorporation of duplexes is something that promotes a lot of the goals within the comprehensive plan in regards to utilization of property, incorporating additional dwelling units within the developed area within the community. And so this furthers a lot of the goals within the comprehensive plan. As I mentioned, there is adequate public services and facilities along the street frontage, and no issues have been raised regarding connecting to those existing facilities. So with that, we are recommending that the board adopt the proposed findings and approve this petition with the 2 conditions that are listed in staff's report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Eric. Do we have the petitioner or petitioner representatives that would like to speak? And if more than one will speak, you can both come forward and we'll swear you in. I'll ask for your name, state your name, and then I'll swear you in, and then you'll have 20 minutes. And sign in too, please. Thank you. Your name, please?
Yeah, I'm Kalen Evans.
Thank you. And do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You have 20 minutes. Of the 20 minutes you do not use now, we will give that to you at the remainder of your time after we've had some action by the board.
Perfect. Thank you. I don't have a lot to add. Eric, thanks for the presentation and for working through this with us the last month or so, getting this petition ready and meeting with the neighborhood associations and modifying those plans. Just a couple things to add, really that we spent a lot of time in the neighborhood trying to get a feel for the context of the neighborhood. This being a vacant lot kind of in the core of Bloomington is pretty rare. There are fewer and fewer of these, so we've attempted to be respectful of the neighborhood, but at the same time want to be able to develop the lot and build new there. So we did have neighborhood meetings with both adjacent neighborhoods, Elm Heights and Bryant Park. It was very helpful, a lot of feedback, well attended. And then we did also do an additional afternoon out at the site. We had a chance to meet with really 2 of the 3 immediately adjacent property owners to get a feel for their most important concerns, with us being direct neighbors. The sycamore tree was a big concern that came up, and we were hopeful that there might be a way to try to save that. At the end of the day, with the front setback, the build-to line, the location of that tree almost right in the middle of the lot, there's not really any orientation of a newly constructed building that meets those setback requirements that's going to allow for the preservation of that tree. We did speak to an arborist. We spoke with Bluestone Tree, the size and maturity of that tree, the drip line of it, any disturbance to the ground, even if we attempted to save the tree short term, building into that root ball based on the size of the tree was what they thought was going to be a problem to try to save that. So another component that came out of some of those meetings is just a broader look at vegetation and not only preservation but also elimination of some of the invasive species in the area. So we incorporated that into our petitioner statement that we want to preserve everything we can, but at the same time, if we're in there working, if there's stuff that's problematic, if we have invasives that are not permitted now by the UDO, we can go ahead and take some of that out. So there is some honeysuckle along the south borderline that I think we can get most if not all of that out. There's a large ash tree, dead ash tree in the on the southeast portion of the east property line that now that we've had it staked, it is definitely within our property line, and we can get that dead tree out of there. And then there's also some dead vegetation up at the street front. So we want to preserve what we can, but also if there's stuff that's a danger in there, that's a danger to the neighbor's property or the future development here, let's go ahead and get that stuff out of there and try to clean this up. So we're committed to that. A few other points then that came out of some of the feedback from the neighborhood meeting, the location of the house and the driveway. We had initially proposed the driveway would actually be on the western side of the lot, and the adjacent property owners to the east and to the west were both present at the Bryant Park meeting, and they really both wanted the exact opposite. They wanted the orientation flipped so that we would put the structure on the west side and the driveway on the east side, and that was more respectful to the driveway configuration of the house to the east, and gave more privacy to the homeowner to the west, that there wouldn't be a driveway, there wouldn't be cars pulling in kind of right there up next to them. So that was a pretty easy decision. We just guessed wrong. We had it oriented one way, and if it makes both neighbors happy, we were able to flip that plan. So, and in doing so, I think that also helped us preserve another tree or two that was on the east property line. So there were some preservation wins there with the vegetation, and also made sense for both of the adjoining neighbors. So we were happy to incorporate that. The only other thing I just wanted to add about the style, there's some design criteria that's built into the conditional use approval process, trying to build something that's compatible with the surrounding neighborhood fabric. We've incorporated similar-sized porches, street-facing porches, set to the front building setback line, so that tries to respect that public realm, that setback line across the block face. We've incorporated multiple roof pitches and styles, 512 pitch, 812 pitch, 612 pitch, dormer styles versus gable styles. There are a lot of different building styles in that neighborhood, even within the immediate couple block area, from post-World War II ranch-style tract homes to kind of Cape Cod style, ranch style, post-World War II styles, mid-century modern styles. As you move even a little further to the west, getting closer to Lincoln and Washington Street, you get into some of the older housing stock that's more craftsman, bungalow, early 20th century type construction. So it's hard to design something that's, you can't really copy exactly what all the neighboring houses are, but trying to bring in different elements of all the homes in that neighborhood. Just to the north, kind of one of the inspirations of some of the design, there's 3 or 4 houses between Wiley and First Street on Henderson that are all kind of in the 1940s Cape Cod style, 1.5 to 2-story type homes that have the shed roof style dormers out of the attic story, and that's really what the main inspiration was for the design of this particular structure. So outside of that, I don't think I have anything further to add that from Eric's presentation. Appreciate planning's help putting all this together, and happy to answer any questions.
Okay, so, and we'll hold the 13 minutes you have if
Okay.
needed, okay?
All right.
Questions from the board or staff? Questions of the board for the staff or petitioner? The only one I have has to do with the sidewalk. I'm looking at the plan, and it says a new sidewalk on this. This will be for staff. Maybe you can look at this, Eric. Across the northern part of the property, in front of the duplex, it has new sidewalk, but it only goes in front of the house. Is it required to have a sidewalk that runs the full length of the property line?
No, in this situation, because there are not sidewalks on adjacent properties, and this is not a classified street, they are not required to put in a sidewalk along the street frontage, only street trees.
Okay, thank you. Okay, great. Seeing no questions for the staff or the petitioner, is there anyone from the public who'd like to comment? And if so, please come forward. We'll have you sign in at the podium and then state your name. We'll swear you in.
And Mr. Parker, we also have a couple online, just so you know.
Thank you.
And if you are on Zoom, you can feel free to send a message to the host or raise your virtual hand to get in line. Thanks.
And if there's anyone else who would like to also speak, you can make your way over to the podium as well. Okay. Can you state your first and last name, please?
Hi, my name is Jan Sorby.
And do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You have up to 5 minutes.
I'm a resident of the Bryant Park neighborhood. I'm here tonight to request that you deny this conditional use permit. You might remember my letter from the packet that I provided all the photos of all the houses on the south side of Wiley. They are either small ranch or split-level houses. The proposed project ignores the entire character and integrity of Wiley Street, on the south as well as the north side of the street. Bryant Park neighborhood is composed of over 700 houses, so I guess Mr. Evans had a wide variety of house styles to choose from. But that's not the purpose of the block front. The proposed design disregarded a hint of the long, flat houses found on Wiley Street. At the Bryant Park neighborhood meeting, I asked the petitioner how he was going to meet the requirement to make the broad side of his building face the street like the rest of the neighboring buildings. He agreed that the roof line design was a problem and that it didn't meet the requirement of the UDO. I was hoping for a revision. I would love to see a good compatible duplex at this location. I was the owner of a fourplex until a month ago. But if the petitioner cannot meet the basic requirements of the UDO, maybe the project is too big, too intense, and the wrong scale for this area. The overall proposal of any conditional use is to protect the integrity of the underlying zoning. The bare-bone designs elements in the UDO were established to help define the size of the building, how it fits onto the lot, and its relationship to the rest of the street, to help ensure the project fits the lot and the street. The conditional use permit is not a political decision. It must be based solely on the standards in the ordinance itself. The applicant can either meet the standards in the ordinance for the permit or not meet the standards. There are only 4 conditions in the UDO that must be met. The ordinance uses the word shall to indicate it is a requirement. The 4 conditions are: each unit in a newly constructed duplex shall have a separate exterior facing the street exterior door. The following design elements of the duplex dwelling shall be similar in general shape, size, and design with the majority of the existing single-family dwellings on the same block face on which it's located. Pitch, roof pitch, front porch, width and depth, front building setback, and vehicle parking access. And then the third one is no duplex dwelling shall contain more than 6 bedrooms total. Each individual dwelling shall have separate utility meters. All these requirements have equal weight and must all be fulfilled to grant a conditional permit. If the petition does not meet all of these qualifications, a permit must be denied. I just have to say, I was really hoping that there would be a revision, but there was none. Thank you for your consideration. Please deny the request.
Thank you. We have, my understanding, 2 additional online. Can we, We have three. Okay, so what's the name of the first? Deborah Meyerson. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. State your name, please.
I'm Deborah Meyerson.
And do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Then you have up to 5 minutes to speak.
Thank you. My name is Deborah Meyerson. I'm a resident of Elm Heights. I was not able to get to the Elm Heights neighborhood meeting on this, but I am here tonight to strongly encourage approval of this petition. I'm super excited to have a duplex in what I consider Elm Heights and Bryant Park to be high resource neighborhoods that are close to transit, schools, jobs, parks. And I think it's terrific to have housing for two households instead of just one. And it seems to me by my reading of the UDO that the plan has met the conditional needs that are proposed. And I would love to see this duplex in this zoning district. I think it complies with not only the UDO, but the City of Bloomington's comprehensive plan and the mixed urban residential goals of the R3 zoning district. And we just need to make it easier to build housing in high resource neighborhoods rather than harder. And this approval of this conditional petition for the duplex is an important step to address local housing needs that we know exist. So I appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. And the name of the next?
On?
YY On?
Uh-huh.
YY On, can you hear me? And am I saying your name correctly?
Yes.
Okay, state your name, please.
My name is Yongyar An, but you can call me YY An.
Thank you. And do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
You have 5 minutes.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. My name is YY An, and I'm a Bloomington resident. And I would like to urge the board to approve this request. So I think my comment is much more general that, as you know, Bloomington residents, especially those who are not rich enough to own a house, have been really suffering with rapidly increasing rents and housing prices. And many had to move out of the city and live in a poorer condition without access to wonderful amenities that Bloomington can offer. So I think one of the most important contributors to this housing crisis is that just a lot of areas are under this exclusionary zoning rules and very strict ordinance. And it's almost impossible to build any denser housing options like duplexes and quadplexes, as clearly shown in this particular case. And also, I would like to point out that we are living through the legacy of exclusionary zoning that was introduced like 100 years ago to prevent poor people and racial minorities from entering like richer neighborhood, to preserve so-called the character of the neighborhood. So I'm not entirely sure how much we progressed from that era of exclusion. And studies have shown that building more housing just reduced the cost of housing. And Austin and many other cities have successfully done so. So that's another like really basic common sense and economics 101 I want to mention, that it's really important to allow more housing to build in Bloomington to make people be able to live in the city. So I understand concern regarding like trees and neighborhood characters and so on and so forth. But I think we should really think about people and let people live in the city. So whenever we limit the supply of housing based on this kind of really tricky rules and all these like requirements, small requirements, we are really forcing folks to compete for dwindling number of options, and this lead to higher prices, longer wait lists, and even more homelessness. And on the other hand, building more housing means like creating opportunities for people to find a place they can call home, like without sacrificing their financial security or dignity. So I think it's really time for us to recognize that the solution to our city's housing crisis isn't just about kind of building these large houses, large apartment housings at the outskirts of the city, which, by the way, will destroy many, many more trees than this one or a couple of trees we are talking about. I mean, I totally understand because I bike commute and I love all the amazing trees that I see every day in my commute. And I really do appreciate these trees. But at the same time, I like to mention that every time we save a tree by blocking denser development at the center of the city, we are destroying way more nature and other amazing trees that we don't see that's at the outskirts of the town. So I really believe that diversity is what makes our community strong. And we should be embracing the ideas of different families, culture, and lifestyle living alongside. And I think allowing this type of denser housing is really, really important. And I think it's time to rethink our notion of neighborhood charm or characters to recognize that beauty of diversity. Thank you very much.
And thank you. And the next person, is there only one more? Or
One more online, yes.
Thank you. And the name?
It's listed as Elm Heights.
Elm Heights, okay. The person listed as Elm Heights, could you please give us your name?
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Eric Ost.
Eric, I'm sorry.
And I'm currently the president of the Elm Heights Neighborhood Association.
I'm sorry, give me your last name again.
My last name is Ost.
Okay, did you get that?
O-S-T.
Thank
Can you hear me?
Yes, okay. And do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, you have up to 5 minutes.
All right, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you this afternoon or this evening. And as I mentioned, I am the president of the Elm Heights Neighborhood Association, and I do want to concur that we had a neighborhood meeting with Mr. Evans that was very, very helpful and informative. And I personally met with Mr. Evans on site that Sunday afternoon when he was there with the adjacent residents. And we discussed a number of things. And I think it's important that we provide the facility for more homes to be made available to people who live here in Bloomington. And I think that the other folks who have made comments this evening have illuminated a number of very important points. I think the way that we facilitate more homes and what the manifestation of those homes is very important as well. And what you're being asked this evening to decide on is a conditional use permit that has a number of criteria. And Ms. Sorby highlighted a number of those that I think should be attended to. And I think Mr. Evans wants to do those things as well. I also think that there's some flexibility in the lot that perhaps could allow some of these requirements and conditions to be better met. So just very, very succinctly, what I would ask you tonight is to postpone the approval of this and to work with Mr. Evans to meet the conditions of the conditional use so that what does result is something that's in better comportment with the neighborhood, but also meets the goals that Mr. Evans has for this particular development. Ideally, this development would result in the ability for additional home ownership. But short of that, I think it's important for the structure that gets built here to be done carefully and to also have a lasting benefit for the community. So thank you, thank you for letting me speak.
Yeah, thank you. Is there anyone else online?
No one else on Zoom.
Okay. Any final comments from the petitioner? You have up to 13 minutes. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, I wasn't looking. I have my glasses.
Okay.
State your name, please.
Hi, my name is John Lawrence.
Okay, and do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Up to 5 minutes. Thank you.
So again, my name is John Lawrence, and I'm the president of the Bryant Park Neighborhood Association. I want to start out saying that I agree that there's a housing problem in Bloomington. But the one thing that we don't have a problem with is luxury student housing. We are awash in units that are renting at $1,000 a month. When Mr. Evans came to our neighborhood meeting, he started talking about how this was going to be a possibility of 2 families living in the neighborhood, but then told us that it was going to be 6 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms, and he's going to rent it for $1,000 a bedroom. So $6,000 for this building. That's not solving the housing crisis that we have in Bloomington right now. What we have, our crisis is affordable housing in neighborhoods for workforce folks. So we're simply transferring another lot into a place that's going to house students who can afford to pay this incredible amount of money. The neighborhood, yes, he came to our neighborhood association and talked with us. It was not a very happy group of people, I'd have to say. People kept saying, why are you putting 6 bedrooms? Families don't live with 6 bedrooms in a house. Why can't you knock it down a few bedrooms and create more living space? Because yes, maybe in the future, yeah, you're going to rent this to students, but maybe in the future this could be for families. Families don't have 6 bathrooms in a house like this. He has no intention. He basically said he had no intention for this being for families. I also had a little problem with the process. Mr. Evans came to our meeting, and he had 8.5 by 11 copies of blueprints that were unreadable. We couldn't read the numbers on them. And when we asked how tall the building was, he didn't know. When we asked what the square footage was, he didn't know. He took some guesses and looked at the blueprints, and he said, well, I think it might be this or that. And I asked, could you please send me a digital copy I can share with the neighbors? I never got it. We had a phone conversation. I asked again, and we talked about addresses of other properties that he's worked on. He said, sure. I never got it. I emailed again. I never got it. I got it this morning at 11 o'clock. Not much time to work through the problems. So yes, he did do the mandatory meeting with the neighborhood, but I can't say that our neighborhood was very happy with the presentation. And just since it hasn't been talked about a lot, if you haven't seen it, the street is about the size of this, I'm exaggerating, it's about the size of this podium. It's tiny. Cars almost can't pass each other. We're going to have a house on a street with not much parking on the property. There's almost no space for parking on the street. When you're renting a property as 6 bedrooms, you're going to have more than 6 people there. So you're going to end up with 6, 8, 10 cars, not an unlikely situation, in a very dense, tight space. So I hope that you will not approve this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I will not make the same error. Do we have anyone else from the public who would like to speak? Anyone else online, Jackie?
No other speakers online.
Okay.
Now, we're back to the petitioner. You have the additional 13 minutes of your time left to address anything that you've heard up to this point.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Or provide more information.
Yeah, I got a few points to make. I'll try to, made some quick notes here, just running through, trying to address some of the comments here from public comment. To Jan's point about the fabric of the neighborhood, her letter, her email, I think is part of the packet. And there are some photos there of some of the housing stock along Wiley Street. There aren't any photos of any of the housing stock on the north side of Wiley Street, or even the adjacent property right next door that it technically has a Henderson street address, but it is an adjacent owner. So I respect her thoughts entirely on trying to stick to the fabric of the neighborhood, and that really has, like I said, that's been our intention. But there is more diversity of housing stock there. There's a lot of one-story ranch style, early mid-century modern-esque that starts to incorporate even some prairie style in it. But there are two-story homes. There are three-story apartments 2 doors down on Henderson around the corner. There are two-story apartments on the same block on Henderson. Like I said, there's a lot of craftsman style as you move just a little further west. And then this Cape Cod style, it's kind of crazy. Just within that block, that Wiley to First Street, there's 4 houses, I think, out of 5 or 6 in a row that are extremely similar to the style of the design that we've put forth. It's kind of a mix between a 1.5, 2-story Cape Cod / craftsman style. So I don't think the intention of the UDO language is to force every house to look the same, even if they're, these are homes, some of them that are 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, or 60, 70, 80 years ago from when these were built. A diversity of style is that to me, that promotes a more diverse neighborhood, a more eclectic neighborhood. I don't really like driving through more modern tract home developments where HOA guidelines and such have kind of regulated that every house is 2 or 3 derivatives of the same plan. A diversity of housing reflects a diverse and eclectic neighborhood. So that's what we've tried to incorporate in this design. We have looked at abutting houses and tried to, the 4 criteria there, back to that specific use specific standards, is about the roof pitch. So there are probably 10 different roof pitches on that. There's 212, there's 312, 412, 612, 812, 1012. We've incorporated, I think a 512, an 812, and a 1212 pitch, and like I said, a couple different styles of gable and shed roof pitches. So we're trying to make it harmonious with the neighborhood. So a couple other thoughts on on Jan's points. There are a lot of ranch style that have a long front face to the street. There are also different lot dimensions along that street, and there are a lot of these homes that by current UDO standards, they couldn't be built back that way because they're into the setbacks. So some of the ranches that are really, really long that take up the whole front elevation of the street face, you can't do that anymore because of the side setbacks. You can't. A lot of these homes are basically non-conforming with the current UDO. So I see that point, but we have to build with the UDO that we have now and meet those dimensional standards that are in the current UDO. A couple other quick points then was the idea that what we've proposed is either too big or too intense. We're under the maximum height that's allowable by right here. I think it's 35 feet by right. We're at 25 feet. We're well under the impervious surface coverage area. The maximum is 45%, and I believe we're at at 27%. So this is not an overly intense by the UDO standards, in my opinion, at all. There's some other points about this being a 6-bedroom, 6-bath home. It's 2 3-bedroom, 3-bath homes. It's a duplex. This is not one unit. So 3 beds, 3 baths per dwelling unit. The UDO specifically limits 6 bedrooms for the total development, which is 3 bedrooms then on each side. So a few other points about this potentially being student marketed and the wild number of high-end student properties that we have under construction in this town. I made that point, I thought very clear at both meetings, that we do not market specifically to students. I cited some of the addresses of some of the other properties that we've redeveloped or renovated in and around the Bryan Park area. I have a 3-bedroom, 3-bath unit. We talked about this over in the Child's School District area. That unit is $2,700 a month for a 3-bedroom unit. It's a family that's here visiting faculty at IU. They have 3 kids, a husband and a wife. They have 1 car, even though there's parking, I think, there for 3 cars. That's what a family is paying for a rental unit in these core neighborhoods in Bloomington. The high-end student market up around 17th Street and the stadium in that area, 3-bedroom units there are $1,500, $1,600 a bedroom. I mean, $5,000 a month. It's wild even to me. I mean, I do have a few locations that are student rented. We don't rent for anywhere close to that. But this is not, I do not think the Bryan Park neighborhood is a predominantly student rental market area. I see this more likely to be rented to a family that may be faculty or young professionals with children that want to live in a core neighborhood 2 doors away from Bryan Park and great schools in downtown Bloomington. So to the other couple of points about more affordability and more housing is good. More housing is good for affordability, where this lot, if we put one unit on this lot, the cost of that lot can only be shared over one door, one 3-bedroom or 4-bedroom unit. The appeal of duplex development in the city is to be able to, there's so few remaining vacant lots to be able to develop out the properties where people want to live in the core of Bloomington, that if we can get 2 for 1 here, that's more density, very incremental density. This is not 20 beds, 30 beds, 50 beds. This is, the difference of 3 or 4 beds versus 5 or 6 beds here. So it's an incremental step. It's not going to solve the problem, but I think it certainly, it's at least one small step towards helping. I think that's all I have. I'm welcome to take any questions, but I do appreciate the feedback. We did make revisions there after those neighborhood meetings to the site, the orientation, some of the preservation issues. One other point that was made about the potential street congestion and the street parking issues there. Eric and I at City Planning talked about this a little bit, that we are absolutely 100% in favor of trying to, Wiley is unregulated street parking on the north side of the street only. So there's no permits required. There's our property, 506 East Wiley. There's an adjacent house on either side that makes up the entirety of the southern portion of the Wiley Street block face. And then there's only one house to the north that makes up the entirety of that block face. So there are really 4 of us that truly own property that's in that street block, and none of us are parking on the street, but there are cars on that street all the time. So cars are coming over either from a block north, First Street, or some of these apartments around the corner. If we could at least start the process, Eric explained briefly that we can start that process, eventually working to City Council to try to get Wiley designated as a permitted street versus an unregulated open street. And I would be completely in support of that, and I think the other three neighbors all seem to echo that sentiment. If we could get permits, at least maybe we could eliminate some of these cars that are on the street that we know that they don't own there, so they're coming over from a block or two, or they're parking there to go to campus, whatever it may be. But we would support anything we can do to try to look at making that a permitted street. So I think that's all I've got. Happy to answer questions.
Okay, thank you. So it's back to the board for action. Any questions or comments to the petitioner staff, please? Okay.
I also share some parking concerns. The site plan shows that it can hold 4 cars, but I don't foresee that being an actual reality because the way that they're stacked in there, they're going to be shuffling cars around. People are they're not going to want to deal with having to ask their neighbor to move their vehicle, so they're going to just start parking on the street. It is total square footage of the proposed site plan is 2,400 square feet, and it's 2 levels. I was on Elevate. Several of the surrounding homes are between 1,000 and 1,400 square feet total, and they're single level homes. And is $3,000 per unit per month, is that what we really consider affordable in Bloomington? Those are my comments and questions.
Okay, thank you.
That I want us to think about before we approve it.
Understood. Yes.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions, either for the board or for staff or petitioner? Anything else?
Question for Eric Grulich. Eric, are you on?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Does this petition fulfill all the requirements for the conditional use of a duplex in this area?
Yep, so let me just answer 2 separate aspects of that. So one, you have the dimensional standards, which deal with building setbacks, building height, impervious surface coverage, those kinds of things. And so yes, from a strictly objective review, it meets all of the standards of the R3 district. For the use-specific standards, which can be a little bit more subjective, that is where, sometimes there can obviously be differences of opinion. So the use-specific standards here, and I'm just going to jump, I think, really to the main thing that is kind of subjective here is the design of the building. So as has been mentioned, the use-specific standards for a duplex state that the following design elements of a duplex shall be similar. So similar is obviously subjective in general shape, size, and design, with the majority of existing single-family or duplex structures on the same block face in which it is located, specifically roof pitch, front porch width and depth, front building setback, and vehicle parking access. So, as the petitioner has tried to explain or step through, there is a variety of roof pitches that you find along both Wiley and Henderson. A lot of the buildings do have front porches that, while it can be difficult, to go onto a property and measure their front porch, you can take a look at it and give a general idea of that. And so the petitioner has done that by incorporating front porches along both units. Front building setback, that is an objective thing. They are required to be at a certain distance, so they meet that. Vehicle parking access, all of these lots are front-loaded driveways. There is not an alley that runs along the adjacent properties for access. So in that regard, it matches all of the adjacent properties in terms of vehicle access. And then just kind of stepping through the use-specific standards again, No duplex shall have more than 6 bedrooms, which it meets. Each dwelling unit shall have separate utility meters, which this meets. So from an objective standpoint, it meets all of the requirements of the UDO. From subjective standpoint of, is it similar? That is where there can obviously be a wide range of opinions. I can certainly share, some of the Google Street View to give some idea of, the diversity that you've got along here. So this is, looking west, so on Henderson, looking north. So, the petitioner mentioned some buildings that are on Henderson that have some of these dormer windows along the upper stories, which they have incorporated. These are 2-story. And then as you look south on Henderson, you have a variety of 1-story structures, and then the apartments. And then as you move west on Wiley here, kind of along this frontage, is where you have, oops, I'm so sorry. Things have gotten out of hand here. You have to give me a minute, sorry. So the lot in question is on the left side right here. And then as you move to the adjacent structures, these are 1-story, very low slope roofs. As you continue west, you see again kind of more steep slope roofs. On the north side, you've got some steep slope roofs, and then there's just a mixture of housing types and designs along this particular stretch of Wiley Street. So it's challenging, when you have not a consistent design along a street, and you've got a mix of housing types, to say that something is similar when there's not really a consistent look and feel along a particular street, and you've just got a diversity.
Can you go a little bit south on Wiley? Oh, sorry,
I'm sorry?
west on Wiley, close to Walnut. There are some 1.5 stories and 2 stories there.
Yeah, certainly. I didn't. I was just kind of stopping short to there. But as you continue on Wiley, you're going to continue to find a mix of things. Yeah.
Oh, we're on Hillside.
So
Well,
yeah,
thank
so
you.
as I mentioned there, from an objective standpoint, it meets all of the requirements. From a subjective standpoint, that we feel that it does meet the intent of similar compatible design elements and materials and size, but that is ultimately up to the Board of Zoning Appeals to decide if they feel that it does meet that specific element.
Thank you.
So Flavia touches on a point, though, just to be very clear to those in the public that are watching or that are here, it's different than a variance. So a variance is not being requested. So Eric, it may be helpful because this is a conditional use. The conditional use has to meet the requirements of the conditional use of the type of dwelling. So what is our latitude, though, if there was to be a desire to not grant this conditional use? What are our requirements as a board? What do we have to meet in order to? Yep, certainly. So you would not make positive findings for one of the elements that are required to be evaluated. So real quick, I'll just kind of go back to that. So there are, I think, four criteria that are applicable to this. So one of those is compliance with the UDO. So those would be the objective kinds of things that we were talking about, plus the subjective in terms of the use-specific standards. So you would make a negative finding that the unit does not incorporate elements similar to surrounding residences, I guess, you don't have to go into specifics of what exact elements you don't feel like it meets. The comprehensive plan, that's a little bit more challenging, possibly to say that it doesn't meet that
So, if you were to not vote for it, you'd probably be better to make the findings in regards to compliance with the UDO and specifically the use-specific standards in regards to compatible design and similar design.
Yes, and that was where I was going with it. I just want to make sure that we're clear because, these come up not as often, and I wanted to make sure that people understood what the conditional use request was and what we're allowed to do and not do. So thank you, Eric. Any other questions?
Yeah, just a quick question. The petitioner brought this up to Eric. What is the process for changing the parking to permitted parking for that neighborhood?
So that goes through, is regulated through Title 15. So that starts with the Parking Commission, and then ultimately the City Council reviews and approves any changes to that title.
Okay. And to the petitioner, I guess you said you were willing to look into that, because I think that's one of the main concerns here is the parking situation.
I would take up that challenge. I know pretty confidently that at least those other 3 adjacent owners on either side and to the north felt very strongly that if that's something that can be pursued, whether or not we're successful, let's make the pursuit.
Any other questions from the board?
I'm sorry, I just want to clarify. Eric, did you speak about the, I just think I missed it, the additional criteria applicable for conditional uses?
No, he just, I think, talked about the...
So like there are the general standard, the general requirements, and then there are additional criteria applicable for conditional uses. So I know he mentioned comprehensive plan, other applicable plans, providing public services, and then the last one I think is probably the one that could be applicable if you were thinking about the parking related to minimizing and mitigating adverse impacts. And I just want to mention that the 4th one on that is the petitioner shall make a good faith effort to address concerns of the adjoining property owners in the immediate neighborhood as defined in the pre-submittal neighborhood meeting for the specific proposal if such a meeting is required. So that was kind of where the parking question had come up. And so you would be deciding whether or not you think that what he's
proposing
is
sufficient.
is addressing their concerns.
Yeah, and thank you for adding that. That goes to the heart of the question that I asked, so I appreciate you adding that too. To the board, any other questions? Or with no questions, then I would entertain a motion. And again, there would be time to discuss further if you'd like to entertain amendments.
I'll go ahead and make the motion just so we can get to the discussion. Sure. Motion to approve CU-17-24 with the following conditions. 1, conditional use approval is limited to the design shown and discussed in the packet. And 2, street trees not more than 30 feet from center are required along the property frontage.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, with that, is there any further discussion about this motion? Any friendly amendments or changes to address the concerns about parking that have come up by the board? No additional questions?
No.
In that case, I'll call the question, and we can move to a vote without objection.
Yeah, we're ready.
Okay.
I won't be voting for it, but you 3 can, and it will still do its thing. So.
But, and if you'd like to express more information before we make the vote, this is the time to do it.
I've already expressed what I said, was just about the parking concerns.
Turn on your mic, sorry.
Sorry, causing a burden to the surrounding homes. I think that would cause an issue. We had a petition similar last month, and parking was one of the similar area, and that was also a shared concern, and we ended up denying that one, that petition. So it was not petitioning a zoning change, but parking was still a very big concern for that petition as well. So we did deny a similar petition previously. Again, 2,400 square feet. I don't know. Find me a home on Wiley Street that's 2,400 square feet. I just think that that's not I just think that's not similar to the other homes in the neighborhood. And I agree that we have an affordable housing crisis. I agree with that completely. For people, for the workforce, for families, for the general public. I don't know if I agree that the $1,000 per bed space is what I would consider to be affordable as a person who lives in a household with one other adult and dependent. I make more than the average median income, and that would be $3,000 a month would not be affordable for my lifestyle, for our lifestyle. So that's my opinion, and those are the concerns I have.
Thank you. I would like to then come back to the staff, if I could, just to remind us, in the event of a 2-2 vote, or the petition for the conditional use then could come back to us again, correct?
Correct.
So just to address your concerns, so that if there was a 2-2 vote, let's say, it doesn't kill that petition for 6 months, I think it is?
Yeah, if there's a 2-2, you have to come to an agreement. Shoot, hold on, let me look up the rules. But yes, because you're not all here, then we would continue it to next month where it would.
At which point the petitioner could make some changes, right? Or does the petition have to remain?
Ms. Lacey can correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe he can make changes before the next hearing.
So the reason I bring that up is because this has happened before, a couple of things, and as concerns of the board are brought up, it is an opportunity for us to vote in such a manner that allows the petitioner to come back easily and quickly to address those concerns to move forward. So I'm just bringing that up in case it has any bearing on any votes, but also just for transparency. Okay, it's not going to, a 2-2 won't kill. A 3-1 against will kill it for the time being. So thank you for bringing up those concerns. Do we have any other questions?
No.
Okay. With that, then we'll go to the vote without objection, and please call the roll.
Throckmorton,
No.
Ballard,
Yes.
Burrell,
Yes.
Farrell.
No.
Okay, so then this would continue.
Well, I think our suggestion would be, and again, Ms. Lacey, get on if I'm wrong, that someone make a motion to continue. I think that would be the cleanest thing, motion to continue to the next hearing.
The chair will entertain a motion.
I make a motion to continue petition number,
CU 17.
case number CU-17-24.
Do I have a second? We have a second. And take the vote, please.
Ballard,
Yes.
Burrell,
Yes. Oh.
Farrell,
Yes.
Throckmorton.
Yes. Okay, with that, then that's, we could see that again next month in a continuance then. Thank you for that. Is there any additional business before the board? Or any old business you want to discuss?
Oh, we have to go back to the olytic petitions. I believe the petitioner
Oh,
is on Zoom.
are they ready now?
Yes, so
Okay,
let's see. He thought he fixed it.
Can I ask for just a quick 3-minute break?
Yes.
Okay, let's suspend for 3 minutes. The board is back in session, and we are now, let me open this up so I can do this properly. We're back at the beginning, correct? We're at V-10-24, V-13-24, V-14-24 for the properties at 914, 918, 922, what street, Winslow? Wiley? Lake Drive? Sorry. Oh, Olytic, okay. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. Can we have the staff report, please?
Can you just do a brief synopsis and then give the recommendation?
Yeah, so essentially, these three properties, they fall entirely in the closed contour, the last closed contour of a karst feature, sinkhole. In our current code, no land disturbing activity, mowing, temporary or permanent structure is allowed within a sinkhole, nor within 25 feet of the last closed contour of the sinkhole. So all three of these properties are essentially undevelopable due to the language in our code. So we...
Yeah, we don't need to go through the whole thing. We just wanted to make sure that the petitioner knew that we had already heard the staff report, but we wanted to give him a quick summary. So
Okay.
if the petitioner will stipulate that we have heard the staff report, then we can go to the petitioner, if that's
Yes,
okay.
he was on Zoom when we did the original.
Very good. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Mr. Graber, are you able to use your phone to speak?
Yes.
Okay. Could you please state your name, first and last name?
Melvin Graber.
And can you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I affirm.
Oh, thank you. And you have up to 20 minutes for your presentation on your petition, and any time not used, you can use later in additional comments.
Yeah, so thanks, Katie, and sorry for not getting on the first time. I was on the Zoom, so I heard the petition being presented. I don't have that much more to add. Katie's presentation was sufficient for me.
Okay, very good. What we'll do then, okay. What we'll do then is, at this point,
Go to the...
yeah, well, we'll wait for we'll go to the board for any questions to the petitioner, please. None? Okay. Seeing none, is there anyone in the public here that would like to comment or online?
If you are in the Zoom and you would like to make a comment, you can raise your virtual hand or send a message to the host. Give a minute here. I haven't received anything.
Okay. So with that, we do need to offer back to the petitioner that you can use the remainder of your time for any additional statements, so you certainly don't have to.
Yeah, Melvin Graber again. So I met with Katie a couple times, and she seemed to have a pretty good feel of what we're trying to do with the property. We purchased the property as with a combination of lots with the intent of developing for affordable single-family housing. We've built 3 homes in the neighborhood, selling for in the neighborhood of $200,000, 3 bedrooms, some 4 bedrooms, and 2 bath homes. Yeah, just wanting to do my part to help out with affordable housing. Was not aware of the complications we was going to run into with the karst feature or the sinkhole, but with the engineering reports, I think it can be with some drainage remediation and proper foundations. I think we can put some nice homes in there.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's pretty much all I.
Okay. And just stand by. We may have questions for you. We're back to the board for action. Any additional questions for staff or the petitioner or a motion?
I'll move to approve V-10-24/VAR-2024-03-0028 with the following 6 conditions as outlined in the packet.
Can we combine all 3? So the
Yeah.
V10-24 should, let the motion note that I believe it's V-10-24, V-13-24, V-14-24 plus VAR 2024-03-0028, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that how we need to, or do we need to do all 3 separately?
No, if you look in the staff reports, you'll see the numbers for each of them, but and if I can just pull it up here, sorry. You can go ahead and just reference the shorter numbers. We have 2 sets of numbers for each petition right now. So V1024 is 914 North Ulitic, V1324 is 918 North Ulitic, and V1424 is 922 North Olytic. So you can just reference those shorter case numbers, and we have a record that they're tied to the associated case numbers. Is that okay, Jackie?
Yeah, I think that's fine. Ms. Lacey, if you're on, I think it would probably be better to do it as 3 motions, just because they have separate conditions. And if you, as Ms. Gandhi said, if you just use the short numbers, that's fine.
Okay, so one at a time then. So the original motion that was stated, is that okay?
Oh, sorry, Heather's on there. Go ahead, Heather.
She's muted.
One at a time, please.
One at a time,
very
thank
good.
you.
So we do have a motion that has not been amended or changed in front of the board. Looking for a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, call the question.
Burrell,
Yes.
Farrell,
Yes.
Throckmorton,
Yes.
Ballard,
Yes.
The motion passes. I am looking for either discussion or further comment from the board on V-13-24 or a motion.
Motion to approve V-13-24
With the,
with the conditions on the packet.
do I have a second?
Second.
Any additional comments from the board? No. Call the question.
Farrell,
Yes.
Throckmorton,
Yes.
Ballard,
Yes.
Burrell.
Yes.
We now have a petition for V-14-24. I'll take comments or a motion.
Motion to approve V-14-24
That was
with
second.
all the conditions.
Oh, sorry. Thank
With
you.
all its conditions, yes.
And do I have a second? Thank you. Any additional discussion?
No.
Call the question.
Throckmorton,
Yes.
Ballard,
Yes.
Burrell,
Yes.
Farrell.
Yes.
The motion passes. And I believe that concludes the variances in all petitions in front of us. Is that correct? Is there any old business from the board? I did have one quick question that I wanted in the record, which was, I did contact, I think it was you, Jackie, about that parking lot next to the Graduate, and I was a little confused by the response about what it is that we actually granted at the time and kind of how it's played out. And so I'm wondering if we could set aside a time to discuss that in an upcoming meeting and maybe distribute that to the entire group to make sure they know what my question is, which is, I thought that was going to be a temporary parking situation and it's turned into a permanent one. And I think there was I'd like to kind of go back to the record and make sure that was clear, because I don't believe that what's happening there was what we'd originally agreed to.
Okay,
and
yeah,
I
we
just
can
want to
check
get that
into that
clarified.
again. Sure.
Okay, and that'll all be explained to the board as it comes to you.
Yeah.
It's an old case.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further business or questions?
Nope,
Seeing none, we stand adjourned.
thank you.